Right.
And we'll always be together, right?
Let me tell you something that my father told me. Look at the stars. The great kings of the past look down on us from those stars.
Really?
Yes. So whenever you feel alone, just remember that those kings will always be there to guide you. And so will I.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Uncle Tickles, and you are listening to episode 5 of New Dad. We're going to be talking about those first few weeks with a new roommate, or in other words, a new child. And in the studio, we have a very special guest, Solomon Leo Pappas. So if you are listening to the podcast, head over to our YouTube channel and just type into YouTube, New Dad Podcast, and you can meet little Solo, who is our first employee and asleep on the job already. Let's give the viewers a nice little shot of him, a sleep sack. And as well as Solo, we have Adam Nation, good friend of mine, father of 2, and all-around amazing guy, here to talk about those first few weeks. His daughter Gia is 3 months old, so he just went through all this. We're going to talk to him in a second. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to New Dad through whichever channel you listen to us. And before we get to Adam, we have a friend of the podcast, Prop Cause, with a brand new song he especially produced for the New Dad podcast. Really excited to unveil that for you guys today. So with no further ado, Prop Cause, take us away. Welcome back. This is Uncle Tickles. You are listening to New Dad. We are recording episode 5. We are talking about the first few weeks. This is very appropriate for me, as many of our listeners and watchers know. We added our second child to the Pappas family on the 6th. So, just about a week ago, and we're right in the middle of that first 2-week period with little Solomon. And today, to talk about these first few weeks, we have a close friend, a father of 2, Adam May, sometimes known as The Nation. Adam, introduce yourself to all of the New Dad's little children.
Hello, New Dad's little children. So got a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old, so I'm right out in front of Uncle Tickles in the Wild West.
And you have 2 daughters, Sienna and Gia?
Yep.
Correct. So, Nation, I'll have you, first of all, explain. I introduced you as Adam May, but the truth is I didn't actually know your real name for probably the first 7 to 10 years of our friendship. It was just The Nation. Do you prefer if we just cut out your actual name and just refer to you as The Nation throughout this episode?
I don't care. It's funny. There's only a handful of people that still call me Nation out there, but those who know will always know.
That's right. So we're going to talk a little bit. I wanted to have you on because you have a 3-month-old daughter. So the idea of these first few weeks is not too far from your mind. I think it's important to get someone that's somewhat fresh in it, because for me, Shep is only 19 months, and that you would think is young enough where I would have remembered what those first couple weeks were like for him, and I wouldn't have been rusty or taken aback or surprised by anything with these first 2 weeks with Solomon, or the first week really. But I think there's something, and I'm interested in what you have to say, Nation. Something to be said about the idea that these first 2 weeks are so traumatic. And that sounds like a horrible thing, but it's just when you're talking about the shock to your system as far as lack of sleep, and it's not just the lack of sleep because you're patching together a decent amount, but it's the fact that you're not getting consecutive hours of sleep, right? There's something traumatic about that, and then this idea of, especially if it's your first kid, you have this new life that you're now responsible for. You're in the hospital for 2 days and you have nurses and doctors all around you and they're coming in every hour or every 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden you're home, and it's one of the most crazy feelings because there's this moment where it's you and your partner and this child, and it's just the three of you, and you're kind of like, fuck, they expect us to keep this thing alive now. And there is really a holy shit moment, and with Solomon, baby number two, we didn't necessarily have that holy shit moment, but the shock, I guess, that my system went through coming home and having him waking up every 45 minutes. And if there are listeners out there who are either expecting their first kid, who don't basically have a kid, or are just listeners who don't have children and don't plan to it, your kid has to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So even if he's sleeping at the most sleep you're getting is a 2-hour, 3-hour sleep chunk. So I'm curious, Nation, for you, did you feel like your mind had blocked out the trauma of the first 2 weeks with Sienna?
No, I mean, well, so Sienna was premature. So that 2 weeks and like that first 6 weeks was way more hectic. So it was like, we were feeding her every 5 minutes, it seems. So we had to use like a little syringe and like tape the syringe to your finger and feed her with your finger because she wasn't strong enough to eat. So that was like, that sucked. So I remember more distinctly that. And then when Gia came rolling in, like she was basically born 1 day before her due date, like full term, comes out maxing and relaxing, and pretty simple. And then feeding wise in the night, like I fed Sienna way more than I fed Gia, just based on Jess wanting to breastfeed. I've probably through the night only fed Gia, I don't know, 15 times maybe.
Gotcha.
If that.
Over 3 months. Now, you bring up an interesting point, because there is a huge factor that kind of plays into this, and that is, how the health factor, or just, and sometimes not even a health, it's just these other factors, extenuating outside factors. So were you guys able to bring Sienna home right away, or was she in ICU or the NICU?
No, yeah, we brought her home. So they did a really nice job over there. So it was like a Monday. Jess calls me at work, and we're like, I was getting ready to fly to Chicago the next morning. She calls and she's like, I think my water broke. Okay, like I guess I'll come pick you up. So I go pick her up. We shoot over to the hospital, and they're like, okay, we got to, test you out and do some, get that swab on and then see what's what. So Jess is like, well, what else could it be? The doctor's sitting there like, oh, well, you might have just peed your pants. All right. So I had to tell her, like, if you peed your pants and you left work to have a baby and all you do is, you could quit. You don't even have to go back. Don't even call it. Just gone. But no, so it was the real deal. So then they moved to like stop birth, right? They like put you into holding pattern, and then they started pumping steroids to try to get the lungs developed. So we did 2 full rounds of steroids, made it like 5 days, and then she was born. They were like, all right, cool, all good. And then we came days later. So it was long because we were in a delivery room from Monday until I think we came home Saturday night.
That's
like in a room. I was sleeping on the floor like some kind of hobo, all shivering cold because Jess was like super hot, so she'd crank the AC. Then
right.
she's super crank the heat, and I'm just like some
And those
porch dog.
delivery rooms are nicer than like the post delivery rooms, but they're still not great. They're still kind of sleeping on, like, I don't know if yours was similar, but we had like a little pull out. It's like a bench, but it also pulls out into like a little bed as well.
Yeah, well, that's what I started with, but then Jess wanted out of the delivery bed, so then she slept on that, and then I was on the floor.
You're a good
Yeah, living
man.
a life, son. Yeah.
You're a good man. Well, and I think so we had it backwards, right? Shep's birth was super, pretty much by the book. He was 2 weeks early, but nothing crazy premature. Really, their births were polar opposite when you think about it. He was born in June. Solomon was born in February, so summer versus winter. Shep was born at about 9 a.m. Solomon was born at about 9 p.m. Uh, I guess the only two things that were similar was, Lita was a champ through both of them, and the actual pushing for both of them was very minimal. Once, we got done watching Floribama Shore, and this is for Solomon, and the doctor came in and was like, so are you feeling like you're ready to go yet? She's like, no, just feeling pretty okay. Like, all right, well, I'm just gonna check and see how what you're at, your dilated number is. And she went to go check, and she's like, yeah, I can't check because the head's like right there. So try not to sneeze or laugh. And then Solomon was out. But there, after that, there were a couple of different things with Solomon. Nothing major. At this point that we're aware of, and definitely nothing life-threatening at this point. But it's like health-wise stuff. We brought him back and he lost some weight, so we were having to go back to the doctor to have that checked. His bilirubin, which is his jaundice level, was high, so we had to go back to the doctor and then go to the hospital for blood tests for that. And he had these two other things that came up. One was before birth we caught, and the other one was post birth that we're still kind of like navigating and trying to find out. But they added these extra stress levels where we were more comfortable, definitely, with with going home and not worried about keeping the baby alive. But I'm sure with Sienna, you guys go back and you're talking about having to feed her with with a literal, a plunger and a syringe, and having to do it, every so often. It's not just the act of having to do that, but it's the stress, right? It's like this idea that now you have this thing home, and everyone just says that all I want is a happy, healthy baby, right? And the happy part's hard to tell because they're babies and they can't talk and they're just like little aliens. But the healthy part, when you, even if it's not even necessarily for sure this is what's wrong, you just throw a what if into there, and as a parent, it makes things exponentially harder from a stress level. So with all that being said, you have those two things that can kind of play into it. You had mentioned with Gia, you're not getting up and doing a lot of the feedings. How does are you guys sleeping in the same room? Because Lita and I have a system, and I'm curious, outside of just waking up and feeding the baby because they're doing breastfeeding. Do you guys have a system, or did you guys have a system in those first couple weeks?
No, so Sienna decided to be a pain in the ass at the same time. So like through the daytime and like anytime she's awake, she's never had like an ounce of jealousy. She's super into having a baby sister. She loves the fact that she's a big sister. It's like zero jealousy issues. But either coincidence or kind of subconscious like jealousy, um, she started waking up like every couple of hours and had this damn doll in her bed with a hat on, and it was the hat that they give you at the hospital.
Uh-huh.
She took the hat from the hospital, put it on this little baby doll, and it would fall off in the middle of the night, and she would call for me to come put this hat on. Like we ended up like leapfrogging that. Like Jess would wake up and feed the new baby. I would wake up and put this fucking hat on the other fake baby. And then so that's more what I was waking up for.
Gotcha.
And then I did a handful of feedings or like get up and, give Gia a pacifier or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, the large majority of waking up for the baby Jess has been doing.
My advice is, and this isn't something that I'm going to say you should go and take this exact solution and apply it to you and your home life and your new baby. But this is something that Lita and I are doing, and I find it to be helping immensely, especially looking back at how we struggled with this with Shep. But what we actually do is, so Lita goes to bed at about 9 each night, and then she's in bed. Upstairs we have a 3-floor house, and so she's very much away from us and any noise, and she gets to sleep from 9 to 2 a.m. and then at 2 a.m. we kind of tag each other out, and then I go upstairs and I sleep from about 2 to 7. And so it doesn't seem like a ton, but I've said this a number of times now. With these first couple weeks, I think what kills a lot of people is the fact that you're not able to piece together these 4+ hours stretches, and so this gives us that ability. And so, you're still able to sleep during your watch, so like, even though I'm there from 9 to 2, I might be able to crash from maybe 12:30 to 1:30 or 12 to 1, depending on, him. But if you can figure out a system that works for you guys, and this really does, because I'm typically a night owl and Lita is more of an early to bed, early to rise type person. So it really works. So I would suggest, figuring out, you guys don't both need to wake up. And there's going to be some women out there who want to breastfeed and they want to be the ones that are doing that every single time. And luckily, Lita's kind of like let go of the reins and allowed me, she still pumps and we're still doing breast milk. But like, I'm still able to bottle feed them for a couple feeds, and it gets her a little extra sleep. So think about it. Try to be flexible. That's one thing that's helped us, quite immensely. You touched on something when you were talking about Sienna, 90% of the time or whatever during the day being a great big sister. I think that's been my favorite part this go around, is watching Shep be, an amazing big brother. And you kind of wonder with a 19-month-old, because certain things he's not grasping certain concepts, and sometimes one of those is gentle. So we were terrified that he was going to like smash the baby, but he's been nothing short of amazing with them. So knock on wood that continues. I'm wondering, Nation, we talked a little bit about how there's very little I think that can prepare you for those first couple weeks. But I do think that perhaps our partying lifestyles in our past, and also you have a somewhat military background, so I have to imagine that potentially prepared you a little bit for that. So do you feel one prepared you better than the other? And if so, maybe elaborate on that.
Yeah, probably, well, you called it the partying side. I'd just more call it just life.
Life hanging.
Yeah, just lifing around.
Just lifing.
Well, because, I mean, first of all, some of the people that we hang out with.
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's funny, every now and then I'll talk to my parents about like, I told them I was doing this the other day. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, that's got to be an interesting podcast, because I think probably the biggest thing that sticks out in their minds when I talk about you is the Daddy's Gone to Jail book that you gave at the baby shower.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, well, yeah, but you've got so many weird friends that like, I don't even, it's like whatever. So I think more like, lifing and the ability to hang out with a lot of people and a lot of crazy and, sometimes unpredictable situations is better preparation for having a kid. Because, right, you're trying to make the world make sense for them as they're trying to figure it out. If you're coming at it like as a super judgy fucking ding dong, it's never going to work, right?
No.
But break it down like, yeah, this is life. That's how it works. Keep it moving. So, I think, because Sienna, I know she listens to me much better than she listens to Jess,
Yeah.
which I think the part is I just break it down for her. Like, hey, no, and I'm not really out here fucking around, but I'm not being mean. I'm just telling her how it is.
That's right. Well, yeah, yeah. You're the nation. You're laying down the laws of the nation.
Yeah.
Um, I I for sure, think that there's a part of what you're saying to be totally accurate. The other part, though, is I think it's the sleep thing, right? It's this ability to have those long nights, where you're up and you're and like you said, even if you're not partying, even if you're just lifing, and you get like 2 or 3 hours, and you got to get up, and the next day you got class or work or whatever the case may be, and having to do that, and there's certain people that without that 5 hour, 6 hour block of solid sleep in an hour, they're worthless, and I think that's what most people, when you talk to, that they struggle with, for those first 2 weeks, is it's the sleep thing. And you, out of everyone, have always been the person who I've kind of looked at as having this supernatural ability to operate on little to no sleep. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe it's some military, but I don't think so, because I think if I more or less, it's probably, it's like a lot of, all of the people I hang out with, they more think about like my ability to not sleep.
Uh-huh.
But if you Jess, I think the thing that she's more surprised about is that I can go and often do forget to eat. So we're just like, what else is going on? And there's like, yeah, okay, I get it. I gotta sleep, I gotta eat, but not really. I'll get to it. So I think it's just more those aren't priorities, But yeah, I don't know.
What
Not sleeping always just been a thing.
what would you say to expecting dads out there who are looking for some advice on how to prepare for those first couple of weeks, when you bring the kid home, what you can possibly do to set yourself up for success?
I mean, to not listen to anybody's advice included. Yeah, like, so here's the thing that I always thought was interesting to me, and I wouldn't say I had a hard time with it with Sienna, but it was different for Sienna. I knew it with Gia, but like, you have everybody come around, and I think you and I are probably on different sides of this, where everybody tells you like, oh, the baby's going to be born and you're going to hold it. No, it's going to be this, magical thing and blah, blah, blah. Not for me. Yeah. Cool. Right. Like, there's a baby. Yes, I get it. Obviously you have like a kind of baseline love for the baby, but I have no relationship with it. And so that wasn't the case for me. So then I'm like, well, all right. Am I feeling a different way? Because my priority right now is feed it, you know, change her, keep her alive, and keep it moving.
Right.
And I wouldn't say I had like a real tangible relationship for a year
Yeah.
with, just because there's not a lot going on. It's like, they don't do anything. It's like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I love you. It's like getting a new roommate. You got to figure out what they're all about. And it takes a little while. They got to come due on that rent every now and then before you're like, okay.
Yeah, that's solid.
Right, but nobody tells you that. And then when you try to tell other people that, they're like, oh, well, you're just some kind of asshole. It's like, no, it's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's real talk for you.
Yeah, it's a little different for Gia, although I wouldn't say that I have like a relationship with Gia yet. It's closer simply by watching Sienna. So now, right, because I have more connection with Sienna as she's now older. and to see how much she's enjoying interacting, like that's more my bridge to a relationship with Gia than like sitting looking at her. They're
Yeah.
like, hold.
No, for sure. That's super. I mean, that's a very interesting point. I think, uh, yeah, it's funny that you bring this up because you're absolutely right. We're on opposite sides of it. For this sounds horrible as I'm thinking of the words coming out of my mouth, but I think I have to be totally honest about this. Now with Shep, I thought that when I heard that sort of advice or people saying, I always thought that was bullshit. And one of the things I was surprised by being a dad was how that was very true. Like I felt this immediate bond with Shep, and I felt, and I worked hard at the bond, but I felt it immediate. I felt like, there was this, not only did I love him and want to protect him, but I felt this irrational feeling that he loved me back. Like I felt that, there's this thing between us. Now, with Solomon, I even told this to Lita, and like it got me teary eyed on the way back from the hospital. But it was, I felt, and this is so stupid to say this because the kid was like 48 hours old, right? And he's not even developing these sort of like, I'm associating these very mature adult type emotions and feelings to this 2 day old being. But I felt like he didn't like me, and I felt like I was having a harder time creating this
Coming
bond.
at me, bro.
Yeah, dude, it's stupid to say that, but I did feel it. And and Lita said something the other, a couple days ago where it was like, well, like it seemed like I was suffering from postpartum, and I'm not going to go as far to say that I felt as if I was suffering from that, but it was a weird juxtaposition from Shep to Solomon, right? Where I felt like on one end he loved me and there was this immediate connection. This other end, it's like I felt like I have this love for this child, but it's not reciprocated, and it was just like this very strange feeling, and it's still even hard to like put into words, but I think that's it's a good point, and the fact is like we're told a lot of how we're supposed to feel a lot as guys and dads and moms too, are supposed we're supposed to fit into these specific roles, but I think it's a good piece of advice that however you feel is how you're going to feel, and it's important to own it and just communicate that, especially to your partner, especially if you think they're being weirded out by the way you're feeling, because I know Lita was kind of weirded out by me. Um,
Yeah.
how,
One thing you should do, I'll give you someone you should get to sponsor you is the other thing that's different between Gia and Sienna is we use this bassinet called the snoo.
uh,
This thing, it's ridiculously expensive. But part of like, I think the biggest disconnect on the second baby is as you're talking through like having to get up every 2 hours, Gia has slept in like 4 to 5 hour increments pretty much since we brought her home.
Jesus,
Um, and she's been sleeping pretty much through the night since like 7 weeks.
dang,
And
that's not normal
largely,
people. So like,
well,
uh,
I think it's largely this snoo bassinet that like
really,
it rocks her all night long and has like sound on it. And if she starts to cry, it like rock. You gotta check it out.
wow,
It's
I'm sold. You're sold.
so right now she's upstairs asleep right now. She won't wake up again. She'll wake up at 5:30,
Dang,
uh, and Jess will feed her, and then they'll go back to bed till like 7:30. So that's the. I mean, when I say I don't get up, it's not like Jess is getting up 10 times.
right.
She's getting up a couple of times through the night, and like it ebbs and flows, obviously, but not anywhere near like Sienna where it was like every hour.
Dang, dang. Um, well, I think if we're going to talk about the first 2 weeks, we have to talk about diapers, right? We have to talk about changing. Um, I think one thing that's going to surprise some new parents, and something that maybe a lot of parents to maybe older kids have blocked out, is those first couple poos and just how crazy they are. Like the black tarry poo that just sticks to the body, and you don't even necessarily know like if it's even a substance of this earth. Was that something that kind of shook you a little bit?
It didn't shake me in that like
Like you were prepared for that?
I wasn't prepared for it, but I didn't care. The thing that was more annoying is like you can't clean it off of them.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Like, so then I just, then you're like, all right, well, I don't want to just be scrubbing this damn baby like, a burnt pot in the sink, but you can't get it off. So
I don't want to come out.
And then both of the girls have sensitive skin, so then you're trying to like be delicate. No, I was what I was not prepared for, and what you hear about more often is like blowing out your diaper.
Oh, yeah.
You hear about like a blowout. I just assumed that meant like you took a huge dump, not that you literally shit on your own head. Like nobody tells you that. Not like, hey, your baby's gonna shit on its own head at the store. No, nobody says that.
And one thing that you actually lucked out on, actually two things, and I know that down the road you'll be having to deal with a slew of other things that I won't have to deal with. But having girls, you don't have like the little wieners that are shooting pee everywhere while you're starting to change them. And Shep wasn't that bad about it. He really only did it a couple times. But Solomon, literally every time you change his diaper, he's shooting off at you. He's trying to get you, and a lot of times it just ends up shooting himself in the face. So there's that. And the other,
you gotta clean it,
dude. It's legit. This kid pees through 2 to 3 sleep sacks and outfits a night. It's insane. And I don't know if it's like the diapers are too small, or he's not. He lost a bunch of weight, but he's not a small baby. So it's just, I don't know. And then the other thing is circumcisions. And obviously not everyone's going to have their baby circumcised if you so choose to do it. Just be prepared. It is a gnarly fucking thing when you have to change a freshly circumcised baby's diaper. Changing diapers maybe to someone who's not too initiated in it is a jarring thing when you've never done it. But then all of a sudden you have this wounded penis staring you in the face that you have to put like Vaseline gauze over. Fuck, that is.
How long do they have to wear that, dude?
So it's again different, and this is Shep and Solomon totally different. Shep's I think took like a solid 2 weeks, like real 2 weeks, and there was a point where we went and checked it one day, and like all the skin that was like around it that was healing had turned yellow, and I was convinced that we had gotten it infected because he had taken like one of those blowout dumps that got everywhere, and I'm just like, oh great, he got feces in his penis cuts, and now like we're gonna have to take him to the doctor, and he's gonna have to have his penis amputated. No, yellow healing skin is like normal, which is just, like, again, not something you're prepared for. Solomon.
No, that wasn't in the handbook?
Dude, no, not in the handbook. Solomon's dick looks great. Like, he's like 7 days in, and it looks fresh to death. His shit healed up real nice. So if you so choose to go this route, parents of boys, if you choose to have them circumcised, just be prepared. It is. I honestly, no joke, if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have circumcised Shep, just because it was that traumatizing for me. I almost didn't do it with Solomon because it was so bad with Shep, but I just couldn't, in the long run, I'm trying to imagine these conversations or fights they're getting into because one of them has a circumcised dick, the other one doesn't, and now they're making fun of each other, and yeah, so I couldn't have that. Anything else about those first 2 weeks? I've had you for about an hour now. I don't want to keep you too much longer.
No, we pretty much hit it. You got to do your own thing. It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
That's right.
Think the support system, between you and your partner or whoever it is, doesn't have to be. I think you were probably more formalized than maybe Jess and I were. Mm-hmm. Jess has as a mother, she's a completely different person than, and in a good way, than who I know. She's more than even, kids are kids, right? Like, yeah, right. They're fun, but having kids, the most kind of fun part of it was Jess being a mom, because she loves it. She's all in, and so watching that has been way more fun because the kids are new, so everything they do is new.
Totally.
Jess is not new.
She's been around forever.
Yeah, she's forever. But then to see, the way that she gets so into it has been
Kind of
so
find her
like that.
purpose a little bit.
Yeah, and she's just really good at it. I
Yeah,
mean, like so I think that's more fun. And so like in those really the whole first year, right? Of because like I mentioned, Sienna was just a roommate to me for a year. So really my connection came more from just watching Jess and how much she was really into it as I was kind of trying to figure out how to be into it. And then as soon as you hit that year mark and kind of walking and being able to do stuff, that's way more fun.
for
But
sure.
in those first couple weeks, you got to find what you get excited about, and it doesn't have to be what everybody else told you should be excited about.
Totally. I think for me, we hit some of the things that were way different this time around. Another thing, just and I don't know if this, I'm just going to say this because it might be something a lot of parents experience, and I doubt they should from just the things you've said that it's something you went through. But one of the other things I felt was guilt. I was bringing home this other kid, and Chef's been my guy, and he's my dude, and now all of a sudden you're bringing this new baby into the home, and the baby's getting showered with the attention, and I really had to make a concerted effort to think of it as like, well, I'm not just bringing another kid into the home. I'm bringing a new best friend in for Shep, hopefully. So it's probably one of the best gifts that we can give to him. So I have to keep thinking of it that way. But it's crazy. The amount of stuff that I think I blocked out just that first go round, um, and we're kind of like it coming back in flashes as if it was like a repressed memory. But at the same time, you also forget about like for me, all those sweet moments and what it's like to bond with that kid for the first time, and when you're starting to feed them and just you're looking at something so helpless that it's a cool feeling, and also having a kid Shep's age or Sienna's age right there to kind of look and be like flash forward into the future, be like this is going to be this, especially when they're the same sex too, right? Because no two kids are the same, but you kind of have a template. You're like, okay, this is crazy that in 18 months, 19 months, he's going to be doing what Shep's doing, or she's going to be doing what Sienna's doing. Um, it's a wild thing, but it's a fun thing, and I want to thank Nation for joining us and spending some time to talk about those first 2 weeks. Nation, anything you want to plug or shout out before we let you go?
No, I mean, have fun with your kids,
That's right. Have fun.
whatever, whoever they are, whatever they're doing, and figure out how you're going to, build the relationship with them.
That's right. That's Adam May, aka The Nation. This is Uncle Tickles. And tune in next week. Uncle Tickles will be going through a little bit of a style a makeover, I guess is the word. I'm going to be having a stylist come over, kick out all my shit, and I'm also going to have a hair stylist as well. Talk about some of the mistakes dads are making and Uncle Tickles makes as well. Nation, looks like you want to put some 2 cents in on that episode.
You're doing this. You're getting styled on the show.
Yeah, so it might not be your typical show. I'm going to have a stylist come over. He's going to go through my closet, ask me about some things, maybe add some new things. I'm going to get a little bit of a makeover and have my hairstylist here because I'm a grown man and I can't do my own hair. So tune in for that. That'll be a good one.
Fuck yeah.
All right, let's hear from our sponsor, Adam. Thank you, and we will see you next week.
All right, brother.
All right, brother.